The perfect life everyone envies is, for her, nothing more than a cage she desperately wants to escape. She got married at 28, became a director by 30, and lived in a luxury apartment in the city center. Yet she couldn't feel even the simplest joy. Until one day, she had a sudden realization that true freedom doesn't come from external approval, but from the courage to break the mold. Today's film, Eat, Pray, Love, tells the story of Liz, a woman whose journey will make every woman who's ever struggled with life cry uncontrollably and laugh with relief. To outsiders, Liz is the ultimate success story. A best-selling author with multiple books, married to the handsome Stephen, and living in a dream home in the heart of the city. But this seemingly perfect life feels like invisible chains tightly binding her. Stephen had a frustrating habit of putting Liz down in front of others to make himself look better. Their biggest conflict, however, was about having children. Stephen had always dreamed of becoming a father, and Liz originally planned to follow the expected path too, until she saw her friend Delia's life after childbirth. Delia's body had changed, and she was changing diapers in the middle of a party, her freedom completely gone. Delia truly loved children. Her treasure box under the bed was full of baby clothes, while Liz's box was filled with geography magazines and travel journals. Delia gave her a serious warning. Having a baby is like getting a tattoo on your face. You kinda want to be fully committed. That sentence left a lasting mark on Liz's heart. Stephen, on the other hand, was thinking further ahead. He longed for a stable, peaceful life. When he revealed his latest plan, to become a school teacher, it completely derailed their vacation plans to Aruba. That's when Liz realized she didn't want to give up her career, didn't want to pour herself entirely into family life, and didn't want to become a predefined wife and mother. Yet looking at the home she built with her husband, she kept asking herself, wasn't this the life she had wanted? She was lost in her current life. On countless nights, Liz broke down in tears and prayed desperately for relief. After enduring all the torment, she finally asked Stephen for a divorce.
I don't want to be married.
Stephen thought it was just a late-night joke. But when they met at the law office the next day, he realized how serious she was. Liz gave him the house, the book royalties, and the retirement account. He took a long time to agree. Not because of the assets, but because he was heartbroken. He had hoped Liz would change her mind. When Liz saw Stephen wiping away tears in secret, she realized that despite being as careful as she could, she had still hurt him. She moved out of the house they bought together and stayed at a friend's place. To ease the anxiety from the divorce, she focused on learning Italian. Following a friend's advice, she jumped into a new relationship to get over the heartbreak. The passion of a new romance was like anesthesia. It numbed her pain for a while. But that passion, like a dazzling firework, faded fast, and the pain returned even more intensely. This new love was just another version of her old pattern. Since she was 15, she was never without a man, never leaving more than 2 weeks between relationships. This pattern robbed her of her sense of self and her ability to face emotions alone. Her new boyfriend, unfortunately, was warm on the outside but cold on the inside. He often told her to keep her distance, but for Liz, a life without passion felt worse than death. She clung to the relationship, desperately seeking the warmth and intimacy she could never quite grasp. In order to rediscover the self she had lost in the long river of time and to deeply explore the hidden meaning behind life, Liz made a bold, almost crazy decision that left her friends utterly stunned.
I'm going to Italy, and then I'm going to David's Guru's ashram in India, and I'm going to end the year in Bali.
She fearlessly set off on a journey around the world, determined to find the answer that had haunted her for so long. She rented an old apartment in Italy to begin her new adventure. The landlady auntie gave her instructions in awkward English.
Che viene qui non si ferma a dormire la notte. Voi ragazze americane, quando venite in Italia, volete solo pasta and sausage.
This made Liz chuckle in spite of herself. Still nursing the wounds of love, she saw this as a chance to learn how to live with loneliness. Liz arrived in Italy, a land of food and beauty, and it became the starting point of her awakening. She mimicked the locals, eating ice cream and enjoying all kinds of Italian cuisine. The freshness of the country filled the emptiness in her heart. Rome was filled with warm sunshine, exotic architecture, and fountains. It was as if a whole new world had suddenly opened up to her. At a coffee shop, Liz was startled by the huge crowd. But a woman named Sophie helped her order, and just like that, Liz made her first friend. Sophie introduced her to an Italian teacher, Giovanni, and they often had lunch outside historic buildings, immersing themselves in the rhythm and meanings of Italian words. To Liz, it felt like swimming through a vast ocean of language. But just 3 days in, she started feeling down again. All she'd done was eat and laze around without writing a single article. And this kind of aimless indulgence filled her disciplined self with guilt. But her friend told her otherwise.
You feel guilty because you are American. You don't know how to enjoy yourself.
I beg your pardon?
It's true. Americans know entertainment, but don't know pleasure.
It means the sweetness of doing nothing. We are masters of it.
Liz followed this new group of friends through the streets and alleys of Rome, where she learned the essence of authentic Italian. You must speak with the hand gestures unique to locals. She could now skillfully name a long list of Italian dishes.
Carciofi alla giudia, prosciutto e melone e melanzane e ricotta affumicata. Poi spaghetti alla carbonara, pappardelle con ragù di coniglio e linguine con vongole. Poi trippa alla romana e saltimbocca. E altri 2 litri di vino sfuso di Cinzano. Grazie.
Brava!
Wow!
She completely let go and surrendered herself to this unfamiliar city, indulging in all the local delicacies without restraint. When she saw her friend dieting for love, Liz encouraged her to just be herself. Worst case, she'd just buy a larger pair of pants. And when Liz saw a dress she liked, she bought it without hesitation. Sitting in a sunlit, quiet corner, Liz ate simple food and read Italian newspapers, and realized this was the joy of doing nothing. Her friends also took her to visit the mausoleum of Emperor Augustus. This once grand structure was completely destroyed during foreign invasions, and even the emperor's ashes were lost. Now, it had become nothing more than a public toilet for the homeless. Looking at it all, Liz suddenly understood maybe her life wasn't in ruins, because the world had always been this way. The real trap is growing too attached to the world. Destruction isn't necessarily decay. Change isn't about escaping an unfixable mess, but about confronting the deepest fears within your soul. She wrote a final goodbye letter to her boyfriend. After parting peacefully with her past love, Liz left the paradise-like Italy and headed to India, a place of far greater material scarcity. The poverty and chaos shocked her. Back during her post-divorce confusion, a friend had once suggested meditation, so Liz came to a renowned ashram, hoping spiritual retreat would help clear her inner chaos. When she sat among the chanting crowd, she thought that if she just followed the rules, happiness and rebirth would come. But during her first meditation, she embarrassingly fell asleep. There she met Richard, a sarcastic guy from Texas. They clashed immediately. Sanskrit hymns were unbearably long and dull to Liz, and in her anxiety she fell into a vicious cycle, stuffing herself with food to cope. So everyone jokingly gave Liz the nickname the garbage bin. Richard gave her some advice. You came here because you want to control your life. Then start by controlling your thoughts. That's the only thing you should be trying to control. Because if you can't master your mind, you're in trouble forever.
I am trying.
That's the damn problem. Stop trying. Surrender. Go out into the garden and just sit there and still your mind and watch what happens. Why don't you just let it be?
Liz followed his advice, but what came bubbling up were all the things she didn't think about in Italy. She'd let down her ex-husband Stephen, but never received his forgiveness, and the guilt gnawed at her heart. Richard comforted her, saying grief is like a jungle of time. You'll make your way out eventually. He shared his own story. Once, he came home drunk and almost hit his young son with the car. Thankfully, his son jumped out of the way in time, but his wife witnessed everything from the house and divorced him, taking their son with her. He missed out on 10 years of his child's life, never again able to fulfill the roles of husband or father, and he couldn't forgive himself. As his life spiraled downward, one day he realized, you can't keep living in the shadow of your past. Everyone makes mistakes. Not everyone gets forgiveness. But at some point, you have to let go and forgive yourself. Liz thought back to the chaos of her divorce and to Stephen's desperate pleas for her to stay. She regretted not explaining her inner struggle and confusion and leaving him behind in pain. She decided to say goodbye to him in her own way.
So miss me. Send me love and light every time you think of me.
With that moment, Liz's soul felt unshackled, finally free and light. She left India behind. Having learned introspection and how to manage her emotions, Liz could now handle many of life's challenges with ease. But her journey wasn't over yet. Her final stop was Bali, the island that had inspired her a year ago to change her life, where she returned to visit the wise man, Ketut. Ketut had once predicted that Liz would travel the world and experience 2 marriages in her lifetime. Back then, she didn't take it seriously. But now, most of it had already come true. Each day, Liz continued her meditation practice, spent her days exploring the island, and visited Ketut in the afternoons. But Ketut reminded her, smiling isn't that easy. You have to smile with all your organs. Life on the island was peaceful and joyful for Liz. On the way back from an outing, Liz had a minor bike accident that injured her leg. Ketut referred her to a kind-hearted local doctor named Wayan. In their conversation, Liz learned about Wayan's painful past. She was a single mother who had divorced her abusive husband, lost her home while fighting for custody of her daughter, and was now burdened with heavy debt. This moved Liz deeply, and she made up her mind to help the mother and daughter. That evening, Liz went to a bar to unwind, and there she ran into Felipe, the man who had accidentally hit her with his car. Felipe wanted to apologize and insisted on driving her home. He spoke many languages and had no trouble chatting with local vendors, and he offered to be Liz's guide on the island. They explored lively markets together, and Felipe introduced her to a variety of exotic fruits. His passport held 46 stamps, while Liz proudly had 49. As they spent time together, they grew closer. Felipe shared that he had been the stay-at-home partner in his last marriage, but when his wife pursued a different path, they divorced. He also had an adult son. After the divorce, he turned to the jewelry import-export business, choosing Bali as his base, believing the island could heal the wounds of divorce. Liz got along wonderfully with Felipe's son and saw firsthand that Felipe was a truly devoted father. During a trip together, his son quietly told him, "Dad, it's been 10 years. It's time." He hoped his father would let go of the past and start a new chapter. In their short time together, Liz started developing feelings for Felipe. He played music and invited her to dance. In the romantic atmosphere, their mutual attraction naturally brought them closer together. But Felipe's presence disrupted her carefully rebuilt rhythm. Liz realized she hadn't meditated in 2 whole weeks, and her indulgent lifestyle had even led to a bladder infection. Sensing her unease, Wayan comforted her, saying that everyone feels this way in the early stages of love. Love makes people irrational, and it's easy to lose yourself in it. Wayan herself still had scars on her head from her ex-husband's abuse, and she was still in debt from the custody battle. The mother and daughter lived in the cramped back room of the pharmacy. Liz remembered the first time she met Wayan's daughter, who held a piece of blue tile and said her future house would be covered in them. As her birthday approached, Liz wrote an email to her friends. In previous years, she'd throw extravagant and wild parties, but this time she asked them to donate the money they would have spent on gifts to something more meaningful. She told them Wayan's story, and so, on her birthday, Liz brought Wayan a generous sum of money, enough to buy a spacious new home for her and her daughter. Liz also received a carefully planned gift from Felipe, a trip to a nearby island. Felipe told her that while his business was based in Bali, all of Liz's friends were in New York. He knew distance could become their biggest challenge. So he came up with an idea. They could try building a shared life between the US, Australia, Brazil, and Bali. He hoped to create a home with her, one free of constraints, filled with freedom and love. Seeing that Felipe had already included her in his future, Liz pulled back. Becoming more deeply involved in Felipe's life made her feel afraid, and they ended up arguing. Liz wasn't sure if this kind of change was right for her, or if it would shatter the hard-won balance she had finally achieved. After a heated argument, Liz decided to return to the United States. Before leaving, she went to say goodbye to Ketut. He asked her, "Will you keep meditating?"
You love your new boyfriend?
I ended it.
Don't understand why you do that.
I couldn't keep my balance.
Listen to Ketut. Sometimes to lose balance for love is part of living balanced life.
What he said next completely awakened Liz. She finally understood that staying true to yourself doesn't mean rejecting change. Facing your feelings head-on, even losing balance for love, might actually be a way to find balance in the soul. With that realization, Liz rushed to Felipe's house, but he wasn't there. So she left him a note and went to wait by the dock. She didn't know how long she waited, but eventually Felipe showed up. Liz reached out to hold his hand and smiled, expressing her decision without words. Felipe smiled back. The little boat sailed off, cutting through the waves, toward their next destination. On the surface, this movie is about a woman traveling the world, but at its core, it's an epic of a woman's search for self. Liz's 3 journeys represent 3 awakenings. The awakening of the body, through the food and freedom of Italy. In Italy, pizza, sunshine, and a carefree lifestyle helped Liz break free from the image of the perfect woman. She no longer suppressed her love for food or defined herself by being thin. It was a reclaiming of bodily autonomy. Just like in real life, so many women are trapped by toxic beauty standards, forgetting that their bodies belong to themselves first. Her time in Italy taught her to enjoy physical sensations and freed her from the need to conform to society's version of the ideal body or the perfect wife. In India, Liz learned to live with pain. All the guilt and confusion she had buried surfaced through meditation. We're used to avoiding pain, but as the movie says, grief is a jungle of time. We all eventually walk out of it. True healing only begins when we embrace our suffering. Her time in the ashram wasn't just spiritual cleansing. It was a deep re-examination of her past. She learned to forgive herself and make peace with her pain. Bali taught Liz that love is not about losing yourself, but about seeing a more complete version of who you are through connection. Felipe wasn't her salvation, but a mirror that revealed both her courage and her fear. True love is the resonance between 2 independent souls. In Bali, Liz learned how to stay true to herself within love, and she came to understand the true meaning of balance, not a constant state of stability, but the ability to find her place amid change. This film is for anyone who's ever struggled through life. If you're feeling lost, in pain, or doubting yourself, watch this movie. It will remind you that eating, praying, and loving are all ways of finding yourself. And when you truly love yourself and trust your own feelings, happiness will find its way to you.